Probably one of the most controversial additions into the game as of late, Tarkov has just added placeable tripwires attached to grenades. This was something I thought only the new boss Partisan was going to be able to do, but it looks like BSG wants us to die in even more mysterious and convoluted ways. The feelings I experienced while watching the patch 15 trailer and seeing the tripwires in action gave me very similar feelings to when we first saw the different types of grenade launchers being added into the game. And while those were initially cause for concern because of how powerful explosive ordnance in a game like Tarkov can be, in reality, you might be in the same raid with a GL every 1,000 raids or so. It's not common, and BSG has taken steps to make sure they aren't seen as such. They've even dialed it back more over time, which gave me a little reassurance that these things wouldn't break the game or just become the new meta. And surprisingly, they aren't as bad as I thought. Scary for sure, knowing they just exist now, and hearing that new sound when you step over one is a recipe for pure panic, but they don't break the game, much to the chagrin of some perhaps. But today I wanted to talk about tripwires in general, how they're acquired, how to use them, how powerful they actually are, and what this means for Tarkov going forward. First off, tripwires can't be put on the flea market in any capacity. I'm glad that's the case, and was honestly worried that even for just a couple days, BSG might have left them available on the flea as an oversight. But nope, they are quest locked from Jaeger, and from there you can buy 2 per reset, and they cost roughly 40,000 rubles. I'm curious if there will be other ways of obtaining them, and if they are lootable in the world, or are rewards from other quests as well. So they're more available than I thought they'd be, but perhaps this is more for testing purposes, and once BSG has enough data about whatever they need, they might get dialed back. But again, because of how they work, they might not need to get toned down. These kits can be placed in your special slots as well as your secure container, which I was not expecting considering they are used in conjunction with grenades. To be fair, however, the kits by themselves don't do anything. They need a grenade of some type to be used. All grenades work with the tripwire too, with the exception of the tall Russian smoke grenade. So that begs the question, how do you use them in raid and how powerful are they? To use a tripwire, you need one on your person. It can be anywhere, it doesn't have to be in your special slot specifically. You press G or whatever your grenade button is to put it in your hand. After that, you press B, which was the last input I was expecting, but this attaches the grenade you're holding to a tripwire. After that, you'll see this little stake in the middle of your screen. It will change from red to green, meaning the surface you are looking at is appropriate for the tripwire. You left click once to set the first part, and then you can adjust how long you want the wire to be. It has a maximum distance of 3 meters, which is fairly long considering what this thing does. But once you have the distance you like, you press and hold mouse 1 to set it. After that, the trap is placed and it's live. Anyone can activate this wire, even you, so you need to be really careful. Now, depending on which grenade you have attached to it will determine how long it takes to explode. The shorter the grenade fuse, the less time someone will have to react to it. And once that wire is crossed, you will hear a very distinct high-pitched ping sound to let you know the trap has been triggered and potentially scoring you a free kill. Now, there are a couple ways of handling these traps should you spot it before you step over it. You can disarm it. By hand, it takes 11 seconds. But if you have a multi-tool on you, which will be the first out-of-raid use for this item, it drastically reduces the disarm time down to only 3 seconds. So if you're not doing a quest that requires markers, cameras, or jammers, it might be worth carrying one of these around just in case. You can also disarm the trap by shooting it, but you must shoot the wire itself, not the grenade attached to it. Once disarmed, the tripwire kit is destroyed, but the grenade attached to it will drop on the ground for you to pick up to either throw or be used to set up your own tripwire. Tripwires also disarm themselves after not being activated for 10 minutes, so they will not last the entire raid, which is a good thing. Other than that, you just need to keep your ears open and eyes peeled for that thin wire that might be going across the ground. The worst part about these things is that they could be anywhere. Obviously, it would be weird if someone was to lay out a trap in the middle of woods, not next to any objective or point of interest, but the reality that someone theoretically could do that is kind of scary. But the big question people are probably wondering is, are tripwires broken, overpowered, or gonna dominate the game? And honestly, I don't think they're overpowered. A strong and scary piece of kit in the game? Absolutely. My biggest concern initially was how fast the wires exploded. From the trailer, it didn't really do a good job of explaining this, but it seemed like it was going to be instant, kind of like a landmine. But after experiencing it in-game, that's not how they work, which again is a huge, amazing thing. If they were instant, then yes, they would be way too powerful and need to be adjusted. But because they are linked to the grenade's fuse timer, they feel much more appropriate. In that instance, the VOG 25 is the scariest grenade to use because of its 2-second timer. You don't have a lot of time to react to it, and that will be what kills you most often. Other than that, tripwires are a new threat you need to always be thinking about. It adds another layer of depth to the game where we need to look everywhere for threats, and this now includes the ground we walk on. It's again very similar to grenade launchers, something that you need to keep in mind and worry about while in your raids, but will seldom come across consistently. These, however, because they are more accessible, you will see them more often because of that fact. I have already tried to use them on several occasions, but to no avail. I will admit, it's kind of fun to set up these little things. It feels like you're trying to defend a space or catch someone completely off guard, which is what I thought Partisan was going to behave like, but I've also come across him once and killed him. He was just up at the resort on Shoreline and he kind of just ran at me and I shot him. Nothing special. His loot wasn't that amazing because the only gun worth taking is the AK with the grenade launcher under it. I haven't even heard the losing karma sound you get in the game now that it's been implemented, which is something we'll talk about in another future video. But I think that's everything about tripwires that you need to know. How to get them, how they work, and if they're too strong to be in the game. I don't think they're too powerful at the end of the day. These will primarily be used to get really cool or funny clips and highlights to share with friends and people online. But D2 in reserve, that already scared me enough. I can only imagine how much of a death trap that will become once people get clever with tripwire placements. But that's another story for another time. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on tripwires and if they are too strong, and be sure to subscribe for more videos about all the new additions that came into Tarkov with the newest patch. I hope to see you in future ones.